Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our session and not going to listen to Tony. We really appreciate that wholeheartedly. As will Tony. Him and his 5 friends, they're going to be having a great time over in that room. So, welcome to the Experts Unplugged. We're going to answer any questions on any subject that you want to throw our way. I may walk around the audience as well and poke fun at you, and that's all part of the game. So play along or leave the room now. Right, so we'll do a quick intro. I'll start with myself, Greg Taylor. I'm in the Exchange Customer Experience team. We should probably as well cover maybe areas of expertise, and you can throw in interesting factoids about yourself too. I'm the guy who looks after grass and trees in my own house. I have a Yammer site that I talk about my grass and my trees constantly inside Microsoft. When I'm not talking about grass and trees, it's client access, staff, and publishing exchange and security and all things like that. So let's pass it along. Wes.
My name is Wes Blaylock. I'm a Premier Field Engineer in the Customer Service and Support organization of Microsoft. So I help Premier customers with questions about, hey, I want to do this with Exchange, either on premises or online, or I will do risk assessments and the like. Currently underway into a big migration for a large customer doing 65,000 mailboxes. So doing some more online than I usually do right now, but all flavors of Exchange.
My name is Brian Day. I work in the same team as Greg, primarily focusing right now on 2016 deployment things, as well as public folders.
Ooh, public folders.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that day we talked about that?
They should just be impressed I admit it.
Brian's like, I'm bored. I got nothing to do. I said, do you want to get into public folders?
Greg said, I have an opportunity for you.
Yeah, opportunity. It was
Boss,
great,
speak for you're screwed.
Sorry.
I get to follow public folder guy. So my name is Jeff Miloff. I'm a program manager in the Office 365 customer adoption team. And I guess relevant to today's topic, what do? I work on performance and scalability, virtualization, a number of random things related to Exchange.
Hi, I'm Ross. This is my first time here. I don't know any of these people.
Hi, Ross.
Ross and I don't actually work on Exchange. We just come to these things for the entertainment.
Yeah.
And food.
Hi, my name is Lynn Chen. I'm the program manager for Exchange Storage and Workload Management and Assistance. And what else do I do?
Fiddlin'.
That's right, that violin playing. If you want to know anything about violin playing, feel free to come and ask me afterwards.
Or during, really. I mean, that would be good too.
I think we'll all be interested.
Okay, I would.
My name's Abram Jackson. I'm a program manager for high availability, site resilience. You can ask me architecture questions about that.
All right, so who wants to kick us off with a good first question? If it's a good first question, you'll get a T-shirt. If it's a crap first question, you have to take off your shirt.
I choose not to take off my shirt.
Wait, Greg, who judges the quality?
Entirely subjective.
Okay.
Online and most of the resources I've looked at have talked about DAG deployments across 2 data centers. I was wondering, what is your recommendation for a company that has 3 data centers and wants to do it for DR purposes and resiliency? We have 2 in one city and then 1 in a different state. So there's interest in doing it across the 2 local for the purpose of high availability, and then have 1 extended to a different state in the case of emergency.
So you've got to be very careful with 3 data centers. The problem is cluster heartbeating requires a full mesh. And what regularly happens in most on-prem deployments is you'll won't achieve transitive communication. So site A can reach site B, and site B can reach site C, but if site A can't reach site C for like a few seconds, you get into sort of a mess from a cluster perspective, and it needs to start picking which site to recover and get rid of. And so you get into a very difficult to recover from situation. Now, on the other hand, if you've got very good networking, you've got full mesh connectivity, you can reroute your paths within less than a couple seconds. You've got BGP convergence that fast. You can use it that way. But we generally recommend that you don't, because that's rare, and so we don't see it very often.
Happy? Great. Will the T-shirt fit? Awesome. All right, you're up.
Okay, my question is about integration with Skype for Business. First time I got it right.
You should be in Tony's session, really.
No, it's integration because the process of integrating is still, let's say, optimizable.
Is that another way of saying it's currently crappy?
Yeah. I believe that's what...
I didn't want to do it. I was a pain in the ass yesterday. No, it's still, you have to put in the thumbprint in the web config for
in the web
OWA
config
and
stuff,
so
yeah.
on. Sorry.
And is one of the real pain points that after you do a CU, though, all those settings disappear? Yeah. Do you want some good news? Yeah. Pretty sure we talked about that in E16. So in Exchange 2016,
we didn't.
We did. The 2016 web.config changes are... Sorry?
We cut it out of the deck.
Oh, we cut it out of the deck. But the plan is...
And it may be in other places. You never know.
No, but I think we actually had it. Well, yeah, it was originally meant to be in there. There is work underway to be able to persist those web.config changes during CU upgrades. Would that be good news for anyone? Yeah. All right, who's got
Now you have to deliver.
And we'll get you a T-shirt for that. When we run out of T-shirts, I'm going to be giving away stuff from the speakers' bags underneath the desk. Who has a question?
Back here. I wanted to expand on the first question. We have a handful of users in our Hong Kong office that pull email from our Chicago office where our Exchange 2013 on-prem is located. Monday morning, all our users get into Hong Kong. They open up their Outlook. It's downloading a gig or 2 or 3 gigs of data through the weekend email that they received. And it completely takes down our WAN link between our Chicago and Hong Kong office. Is there a solution to put local servers there or database copies there that you guys support as far as the DAGs go?
Who wants it? I'll take it. Like 3 gigabytes over a weekend? That's a lot of mail.
Our Exchange integrator said they've never seen more mail in their lives.
How many users is it?
That's
It's not a lot.
All right.
5 users.
What's your max message size?
It's about 40 users, and they average a couple of thousand emails over the
Are
weekend.
they emailing ISOs to each other? I mean,
It's Pirate Bay.
seen that.
Over email.
So that's farther than you want to put servers from the same DIG. We recommend less than 200 milliseconds between servers in the same DIG. But what you can do, and a lot of our customers do, especially the multi-regional ones, is create another database availability group, one for in Hong Kong, and then one with the rest of your users. And then it's a matter of putting those users' mailboxes there. And that gets a little tricky with namespaces, so you can use geo-distribution. You can try a unified namespace if it's going to work for your latency, or you can use regional bound namespaces. But yeah, so basically you just put a DIG in both regions.
If the problem is they're sucking up all your bandwidth, something else we've seen customers do is do QoS for Outlook, where they only allow it to take up so much bandwidth. That might mean it takes them longer to get the content, but you're then not screwing up the rest of the business.
Okay. So it's possible that I missed it, but are there any improvements to the managed availability functionality that was in Exchange 2013 in 2016?
Are you implying that there's nothing good in managed availability? That there's features that need to be enhanced?
Well, I will be very careful, but I heard a lot of problems with managed availability. I don't have any experience because I'm currently on 2010, but I find it a very interesting feature. But when I hear from people from the field, and I have quite a few colleagues who are still in the field, then it's kind of a pain in the proverbial ass. So, yeah. Okay, that quiet.
Master of MA want to answer
looking at me about this? I don't work. So there's not any major architectural changes in managed availability. However, we have made some behind-the-scenes framework improvements, since 2013 RTM for sure, and continuing on. Particularly in CU6, we changed how health mailboxes were created so that it didn't require so many password resets when databases moved and stuff like that. So there's those sorts of things. There was a session a couple days ago about troubleshooting managed availability. There's a new tool that somebody has written that can help out with a lot of that. And I think most of the complaints come from people that don't recognize or they don't know what it's doing, and it is all logged, but there's a lot of things logged, and so it can get a little bit tricky to get into. So there's in addition to the framework stuff and those tools, of course, all of the different protocol teams, all the components in Exchange are continually updating their monitors and responders to be more accurate, to take actions more correctly, and so that they don't get alerts.
I'll just go ahead and kind of dovetail into that. The session is really worth watching. It was along with the release of the Managed Availability Troubleshooter. It was Jay Cotton and Steve McComas, a couple of PFE colleagues of mine, that wrote that up. And it is a great first step into understanding what Managed Availability has done in your environment. And they also talk about the strategy of delving into what Managed Availability did. And a lot of people will start on the wrong end when they're trying to figure out what that is. And so definitely recommend watching that session and using that tool and giving the feedback so they can make continual improvements.
And Abram here has also written a number of articles that we've published to the Exchange Team blog that walks through all the intricacies of managed availability, how to monitor it, how to react to it. Definitely recommend reading those as well.
All right, who's next? Got one at the back in the middle?
My question goes along with the emailing ISOs and the Skype integrations. The big thing is we try to keep consistency with attachments with our users between the Outlook client, OA, and Mac. And right now we have to edit the web config every time we have EWS or CU update for the EWS and the OA file attachment size limit. Is that also going to be addressed in this improvement in the CU updating?
So the work is initially the OA and ECP team are taking on that task, but we realize it needs to be broader. So those are ongoing discussions at the moment. But we would like to get rid of that CU to CU explosion, or the fact that you need to redo the changes. Okay. All right.
Hi. I have a Exchange 2010 current architecture and going to deploy Exchange 2013, and I had a question about the 2010. We have archive databases, and they're larger. They're like 10 gig databases, and we get 9877 errors when people, I guess they're searching, and it's a short search string. And then the RPC client latency spikes at that point and then goes down slowly. And I opened a ticket, and they said you can increase the number of nodes that can be searched to get rid of the error, but it doesn't stop the issue. Does that stop in 2013?
It's funny. We all look at Jeff at this stage.
Oh, really? Me?
Yeah. We do. Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. Search is different in 2013. So it's a fair assumption that the behavior will be different. Whether or not that particular issue goes away.
Okay, I think it was a limit of like 200,000 items or something during the search, and I said that the search is too broad. There's a KB article on it.
All right, the store team is over here against the wall, literally looking right now.
He can actually debug your server from here on his phone.
From his phone, yes.
He's happy to do that, does it all the time.
Your admin password's fluffykitty123 bang, right? Okay.
Anyone have a question on...
Yeah, hi.
Anyone have a question on... I'm just going to interrupt for a second on storage or server architecture, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I have a question for storage.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What is the recommendations for the storage in the next release for Exchange 2016? And because we have seen from 2007, things has been changed related to storage. It was CCR, then the DAG, and the 2013 also DAG. So 2016, is there going to be any changes in the storage?
Oh, you didn't come to my session.
Oh, I'm really sorry.
Wow.
So you didn't hear the big announcement? Sounds like everybody else did.
I think so.
I'm jumping at it.
SQL.
Yeah.
SQL, really?
How does that sound?
Coupled with USB thumb drives.
We're joking, obviously. So the architecture that we laid out, that we began upon with 2007 and have moved forward continuously over the last several major releases of continuing to refine and reduce I/O and drive toward being optimized around capacity, I/O, and throughput, continues to hold true with the next release. The architecture that we had in 2013 of having multiple database copies per disk, that continues to be the same architecture. We designed toward JBOD storage.
Okay.
Large 7,200 RPM disks.
And we have seen that the logging for the previous version of Exchange 2010 was different, and 2013 they have changed some of the logging options. Before, the logging option was different in 2010. 2013 we cannot find the logs. I mean, not much.
Like diagnostic logging?
Yeah, diagnostic logging.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
We log an awful lot, as probably many people in here will attest to. So there's all the logging is stored now in the Exchange Server v15 logging folder, right? Yes. So everything's there. It can be sucked into whatever data warehouse you want and evaluated and managed.
Okay. Thanks. Okay.
So I just want to give a plug on one of our storage features and one of the easy features that we've been implementing. So it's the DB divergence corruption detection. So this feature, I know that many of you probably have hit data corruption before. It's rare, but then it can happen. And what this feature does is that it continuously scans the databases and then it compares the passive and the active copies to make sure that the copy is exactly the same. And if it's not the same, then we will go and raise a error for you to say that there is a corruption. So you can always now go and deterministically find that corruption piece in your database. So that's a great feature that we have, a great improvement that we have.
How about the lag copies recommendations? Across the DR, lag copies. Recommendation for across the DR.
So as part of our preferred architecture, we recommend having one of the 4 copies be the lag, the one with the highest activation preference. Okay. Set it to 7-day replay lag time and enable replay lag manager in 2013, and 2016 will be enabled by default. And that will be that potential point-in-time copy, but yet we prefer availability over a retention period of data. So we will activate it, we will play it down in the event that there's potential for an activation due to lack of redundancy.
Okay. Thank you.
And here's a T-shirt for allowing us to laugh at you, not with you. There you go. All right, can you pass the mic behind you? Or there we go.
I heard several times during the sessions that you guys are recommending enabling BitLocker in the data volumes to avoid like somebody pulling out a hard drive and taking it away, and is there any concerns about the performance degradation with enabling BitLocker?
We have been running with BitLocker for quite a while now in the service, and we haven't actually seen any major degradation with running with BitLocker. It's the maybe performance hit of like single percentage performance hit there, and there's no other issues that we have seen with BitLocker. So really for us, we have, we're running as normal.
Okay, and a shameless plug on the subject of storage and HA. There's a panel discussion, I think, happening. You said it right after this.
In this room.
In this room.
So, Praveen, I have 2 questions regarding Exchange 2016, and considering that we are following preferred architecture, and let's say in a maintenance situation, if I mount the database manually to other database, and considering that the Exchange is proxying the connection, if I reboot, patch, or do reboot of the server that is currently proxying the connection for the client, how would the Outlook behave?
Brian?
Well,
Brian, why don't you have a go at that? Because you've been terribly quiet up to now.
It's going to turn into the political answer of it depends. Really, how is your environment set up? I mean, so run it once by. So you've got 2016 deployed. You move a database to the other data center. The client is hitting the server you moved it from, and then you bounce that box.
Yes.
Well, were they hitting the box directly? Were they coming through
From
a
load balancer? Load balancer.
Then your load balancer should detect that the protocol health is no longer there, the box is gone, and redirect that traffic to a remaining client access service, whether that be in the same data center or the alternate data center.
Will the user lose connection, or they have to relaunch the Outlook, or it's going to be seamless?
No. So if they're in online mode, which we don't recommend anyways, though there's probably a bunch of people in here with Citrix Farm type solutions in place. If they're in cache mode, they won't even notice. If they're using ActiveSync, they won't notice. If they're in OA, they probably won't notice unless they happen to click at the very second the thing gets dismounted and moved. But there should be no action on the end user I'm aware of.
And I'll also put a plug in here for MAPI over HTTP versus Outlook Anywhere. MAPI over HTTP uses very short-lived connections, essentially aligned with when Outlook actually needs to go out and do something with the server, versus the very long-lived connections associated with Outlook Anywhere or RPC over HTTP. The overhead of dealing with that from a client, the perspective of the client reestablishing connectivity to the server, very, very low. Much better experience there, both client and server.
My question was based on 2010 experience. So you guys not allowing that anywhere, right? MAPI over RPC on 2016?
Correct. That's a 2013 and above. 2013 SP1 and above.
And the second question was, do you guys have Exchange T-shirt in medium size?
So you'd call yourself a medium, would you? Yeah, all right. I've been doing that for a long time, too long, or far too long. Right, okay, who's got a question over this side? Come on, let's go find somebody.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Chris.
But I might need Greg as a human.
No. Go on, I'm going at the back.
Okay. So this is an architecture question specifically around the fact that the front end is no longer a separate role. Is it conceivable that you would have a set of 2016 servers just as in servicing client connections in front of a set of mailbox servers?
Why?
For the customers that's got very specific requirements around networking.
Oh, you're one of those guys who wants to put things in the perimeter network.
Yes. When he says specific, he means overcomplicated.
Well,
yes.
Yeah.
Complex.
I think there's a couple of scenarios where, for instance, let's say you've got a whole bunch of DAGs in the background and your load balancer that you have, you wouldn't necessarily want to have all of the nodes from the DAG in that load balancing pool, and maybe separating that off into a separate set of servers, and that would...
So I'm going to be a little bit of a smartass here, but complexity breeds failure.
No, I know.
Better than a dumbass.
That's my quote.
Complexity breeds failure. So simple is the architecture mantra that you've seen us go to over time.
Yeah.
And when you diverge from that, what you're going to get is an inconsistent experience from the rest of the people who have deployed the technology, and certainly what we're seeing. I always tell my customers, and there's at least a couple of them in the room, vanilla is your favorite flavor of ice cream when it comes to architecture. You want to be like everybody else because then it works and breaks like everybody else.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of
You don't want Rocky Road?
No, not in my architecture. That's after hours.
Okay.
Well, tutti frutti?
A lot of our customers, you'd think they chose the Rocky
All right.
Road.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I think the only follow-up of it would be one guidance. I know what the guidance would be or the suggested stance on it. But how would you go?
Don't do it.
I know. Yeah. That's why I said I need Greg as the human.
Well, if you're going to do that, you're also doing a couple of things. You're artificially lowering your availability if you're going to have a small number of CAS. Instead, there's no reason not to use all of your DAG members for client access. Now you're going to have a smaller number of clients hitting each node, and if you do have a problem, you're going to affect a small number of users. Whereas if you have a smaller pool of dedicated servers just for taking connectivity, and you have something wrong there, you're going to affect a larger number of users. So why not use the capacity you've deployed? All the perf guidance that these guys come out with is baked in with client connectivity hitting the boxes. So you're not doing it any favors by
I know.
going through a proxy.
The thing is, I've had customers where they don't allow you to have that. You needed to have a tier.network. And although it's against the guidance that you give, sometimes that's how you needed to implement it to actually be able to adhere to the
Are you going to say security policy?
Well, not just security, but compliancy within the organization.
So tell your security guys that the load balancer is the client access server.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm giving
there you
up
go.
on this one.
All right, question at the back.
Hi, all. A question about the send as and send on behalf filing features that appeared in.
Where are you?
Oh, over here. Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hi, all. Send as and send on behalf filing features appeared in, I don't know, 2010 SP something, and then in 2013 some of them went away, and I'm not sure if they're back now in a current version. And how's that look?
They
in the
are
future?
back.
They are back in 2016.
Yes. It is now through it was entirely rewritten in 2013 due to the major architectural changes we made, which is one of the reasons why it took so long. There was work on store, there was work on other areas of the product to enable that functionality. We shipped it in CU6, CU7, something like that. Oh, it's CU9. Oh, so then it's coming. Damn it. Thought it was already out.
Okay.
But we did announce it, at least.
Okay. And no changes to that in 2016?
It will ship with 2016, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, one more over the back here.
Hi. Today, actually, in our environment, we're on Exchange 2010. We dedicate hubs for journaling. We dedicate hubs for the application. We also dedicate hubs for the internet as well. So there's dedication for all the hubs that we do today. And then obviously the reason for that is there's a lot of email flow going through our system, so we want to make sure that we're able to dedicate all those hubs. In 2016, obviously the fact that there's only one role, is this any more optional to go ahead and just put a mailbox, don't put any users on it, and just keep it running as the hub and CAS, or this is just not recommended, not supported anymore?
Architecturally, it has significantly changed. So keep in mind, a message comes in from a routing selection purposes. We now prefer routing to the DAG, which the mailbox resides. We will prefer the DAG before 80 site boundary or anything. We route it to the, I can't remember that term we use now. We get it to the closest point to the mailbox as possible. That is the transport instance that will then queue it and is the one that then will create all the shadow copies for it within the DAG to ensure we have site resilience. So the whole notion of how transport, and you would design transport in 2007 and 2010, have changed radically with our architecture changes as a result. And there is no hub transport role anymore.
You mentioned internet, so you do have edge transport as an option. I can't hear him. Did Greg steal his mic?
I think he said they don't use, they have Unix servers that wouldn't use edge transport. But I think the point there was that for your outbound internet mail, you can think of that as those dedicated servers that handle that queuing. But other than that, there isn't really an option.
Oh, and I guess I'll give another plug out to something else since you mentioned journaling. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but in Exchange 2013, CU6, CU7. I keep going back to those two. Lots of things occurred in those two releases. And in Exchange Online, you can now have blind carbon copy and distribution group expansion stored via in-place hold. So you don't necessarily need the traditional message envelope potentially anymore, depending on your requirements and architecture. So for those that are interested in that information, check out the TechNet article on that feature set, because then it now becomes integrated into the sent item copy of the user who sent it. Then it's found easily in e-discovery, and it's just all inclusive within the message itself.
I had two quick questions.
He's got a book.
Notes.
Your two questions depend on the first one being good. Okay?
Choose wisely.
Pressure. In 2013, you had the front-end proxy for transport for outbound SMTP. From one of the sessions yesterday, they were indicating that that's still available. Why would you ever use it? Theoretically speaking, it should be coming off the same IP, so there's no networking reasons, correct?
There actually is. What if you have a bunch of like IMAP clients or SharePoint or some other internal mailing apparatus that submits messages into the Exchange organization proper? The front end transport can be load balanced, and so you can distribute all those requests across a large number of pool. So smtp.contosa.com for the IMAP client.
But for outbound?
For outbound, it basically allows you to control direction. It's a directionality control option. You have to specify it on the send connector to do it.
Yeah. Additionally, security policy may come into play in terms of the set of machines that are allowed to connect outbound to the internet. If you go the route of sending that through CAS, essentially that's the set of predictable servers that need both inbound and outbound access to the internet.
And
wait. Did Greg think that was a good question?
Okay, we're good. Thumbs up. He's all right. Continue.
The limitations on the EAC blocking in Exchange 2013 are, you have to have a separate CAS server basically to enable to block EAC.
No, you don't any longer.
Okay.
We addressed that. Greg might want to answer that.
Just hand Greg the mic. He'll go on for like
I
a
wrote
half
the
hour.
blog post. Was the question, are we changing that or are we... Right, so... no, so well, in 2013 we started supporting multiple OA and ECP virtual directories on the same box, and so that you would be able to enable EAC for admins on one of those websites and disable it for the others. So if you look on the ELO blog, you'll find the steps that enable you to do it. Okay? Wow, I answered a question. That's flipping awesome.
Yes, you.
Hi there, guys.
You have a lot of buttons.
He has a lot of stickers, too.
A lot of flair.
Wow, a lot of flair. Loving the flair, baby.
And a terrific
I feel
smile.
inadequate suddenly.
The Skype for Business and Link 2013 guys have been promoting the use of Windows Fabric for their high availability needs. And I'm wondering if that's a feature. I don't know. It may have been in your session, but I haven't heard very much about any other Microsoft products leveraging Windows Fabric. So I was wondering if that's something Exchange might eventually utilize.
It's not something we're investing in at this particular moment, no.
Hey guys. So one of the things we see frequently when I do JBOD deployments is we do jet stress testing on existing servers, on new servers. Sometimes the disks pass, sometimes they don't, sometimes it's a problem with the disk or controller. My question is, we fully deployed, JBOD drives tend to fail a little bit more often than other higher performance drives. How do you recommend continuing to do jet stress testing on replacement drives 6 to 12 months later? Storage?
Oh dear.
So your question is
Good.
how do you recommend doing replacement drives for?
Well, how do you guarantee that 6 months after you deploy, now you have a drive failure, you replace it with a new single JBOD drive? How do you know that drive meets your specifications now? You don't have RAID to protect you where you can spread that load.
I think so. Honestly, it's a good question, and I think
You're
the way
not
that,
from storage.
Well,
She was going to speak.
I'm apologizing to her, not to
no,
you.
No, I'll talk a little bit. So, I mean, for our servers, we always have the same type of drive, same brand of drives that we go and replace. So we know that, and we also, use commodity hardware. So we expect that drives to go and fail, and we can handle that because we have auto reseeds set up. So if the drive does fail, we can go and reseed it to the spare, so that particular drive can fail and take a few days or even weeks to go and get replaced. So we do cater for the HA redundancy for that. But in terms of actual drive getting replaced, maybe.
So the other thing that I would mention is, we also have done a lot of work, some of which is shipped in 2013, some of which is shipping in 2016, around predictive failures and detecting actual failures. For example, 250 milliseconds over a 24-hour period?
Well, all this on the server for over 100 milliseconds.
Over 100.
All databases on a disk for 250.
Yeah. So we will issue an event that can then be monitored for and taken action on if we detect that latency is too bad on this disk.
So then, in that case, you would end up replacing the disk more than once, just because it's
right.
Too high. Okay.
Kudos to you for trying to overuse jet stress.
Yes.
Where's his?
No.
Where's
I'm
his
waiting for
itching
Brian.
to add something?
Brian told me to shut up. I'm waiting for Brian to tell me permission.
Go on.
Next question.
I miss working with Brian.
It's not what he
going
says
back
about
to
you.
Oh.
No, come on.
Going back to some simple backdrops of infrastructure. Your question's valid because, hey, how do you verify that the individual disks that you're replacing are going to perform well because you didn't bless that individual piece of hardware in your jet stress? When you jet stress ahead of time, what you're doing is blessing that overall infrastructure, right? That class of disk, that model disk, that size of disk in coordination with the other disks that you've got on the system. Individual drives being able to have particular problems or not aside, one of the things that you'd be able to do is trend your performance analysis. And they kind of talked about it from a different angle, but trending your performance analysis and being able to say, hey, I'm seeing excessive latency on that database copy or that set of database copies, and whenever it activates on that server now, it fails back because suddenly managed availability is pissed because I've got huge latency and my synthetic transactions aren't good. So this is where good change management, good monitoring, and historical analysis will be able to let you have a correlation to say, oh wow, look at my performance on this, what happened there? Go back to change management. Oh, we changed out a disk. So it's not just user requests that need to go in change management. It can be down to changing a single disk, even though there's no production impact. That allows you to correlate that and say, you know what? I got a bad disk. Let's go ahead and swap that. Let's reseed that database copy. So data's power. Storage is cheap. It's not just about storing the emails. It's about storing that historical performance data so that you can go back and trend and fix problems before they become real issues.
Just one more thing. If it is a big deployment and you're worried about individual drives not being good when you go make those replacements, don't buy a year's worth of spares all at the same time. Okay.
An organization, a large deployment, we had them buy an extra server, and that became their jet stress test server because they knew they were going to spin up lots of drives over time. So we saw drive firmware that would change over time and degrade performance and things like that.
I think if I jump in here, all of us will have answered the question. So I just wanted to point out that when you're replacing individual drives, it's just a single copy of your database, and so it can fail, right? And so it separates that way differently than when you stand up all new servers and start putting your mail on there, and they're all the same class, and you all put them back on. So that's when jet stress is really important. If all of the things on one server or all of these disks that you're replacing are all failed, you've still got other copies.
So one more thing about, because you've mentioned firmware upgrades, and we do firmware upgrades for our disks and controllers and things like that all the time too. And it's probably common sense, but we go and roll these firmware upgrades out very, very slowly. So we go and test out a set of servers, and if that's okay and the performance is good, then we go and roll out to everybody else. So it's definitely very important to make sure that any firmware or anything that you take on board your servers needs to be tested and validated.
I think
Just
you
one
found
more
the
thing.
one question that we actually wanted to answer.
I was going to say that this whole notion of upgrading firmware and everything comes back to the whole every server's an island approach, direct attached storage, JBOD and everything. I upgrade that one server, it tanks. I just didn't destroy all the rest of them. Where in the shared storage model, I update that storage controller. Oh, crap.
All right, gentleman in the middle in the fetching shirt.
Well, we're on that shared storage model now.
I'm sorry.
With 2010, but that's kind of a data center policy thing. It will take some convincing to change, which I'll attempt to do. I think the JBOD concept will be even more convincing. So let's say we only get as far as we can do direct attach, but we've still got to do RAID. Will we do one big RAID 5 volume and then logically partition those up? Or
Oh,
I know.
No,
I know,
no.
Ross. I knew this
No,
would hurt you.
please don't.
Definitely do RAID 6. Pull 2.
Smaller numbers are better. RAID 0, right?
Should we give him a T-shirt?
So he needs to feel better.
And we'll put
We
it
give him a real answer.
and we'll put it over his head. All right.
So if you're going to RAID 10 or RAID 1, right? Either one to get that parity, but not RAID 5, not RAID 6. Or RAID 50, or RAID 60, or RAID DP, or anything else.
All right, question over here.
As we prepare for flipping the switch to MAPI, are there any architectural caveats when flipping over to MAPI over HTTPS?
That sounds like a good one for Brian.
Architecturally, keep Outlook up to date. There's been a lot of fixes in Outlook, so don't just take the latest service pack. Definitely go out there and grab the cumulative updates that the team puts out. We had some more fixes even in the April one that just was released.
That's now the minimum required one.
Is that how we're going to, every one that comes out is now minimum? Or?
No.
Okay.
Sort of the ones I pick and choose these days.
Okay. So email Ross Smee when the next one comes out, and we'll find out if that's the minimum. No, but really make sure Outlook is up to date, and also before you flip that switch, just make sure that you actually went and configured everything the way that you expect. We've had people that just turned it on and didn't actually realize there was a new /MAPI virtual directory, and all their settings were the FQDNs, and customers don't usually like certificate pop-ups and name pop-ups in the client. Since, was it the SP1 calculator, the perf was already built into it. So if you were using a version of calculator that was around SP1, I don't know the version number, Ross probably does, you should already be set up for the performance aspect of enabling that.
With one caveat, make sure you're running .NET Framework 4.5.2 or later.
Yeah.
On the server, to be clear.
I think it's a question just now.
So a couple years ago, there was a case where some OS version on the device was filling up log files on the cache servers, and I believe you guys provided the fix. So have you guys put anything in the base product or any fundamental change that would restrict this kind of behavior and not affect stability of the server, regardless whatever is the OS bug on the device or whatever is the behavior of the OS on the device?
So, I'm thinking of how to phrase this. So, let's just talk about calendaring, right? There have been a number of issues in a certain device over the last several releases that have resulted in issues with calendaring, and the engineering team takes those seriously, and so we have worked consistently both on our end and with that particular developer manufacturer to improve calendaring over time. And so, issues like resyncs and generating logs and being black holes and things, we continue to innovate and try and protect the environment for. So when those do crop up, we take them seriously and look at them.
I mean, it would be great if you guys have something out of the box or some sort of configuration that if the device is acting up or a specific OS bug on the device, just disable those or
So you have that capability. We have the ability to block particular versions.
There's another
CAS.
option, OA for devices, Outlook for the new mobile devices. That is now our attempt to stop that issue so that we're not relying on a third-party vendor of any kind to keep their ActiveSync client up to date. We can keep it up to date, and hopefully us being the vendor that writes the ActiveSync stack as well as the client can get you into a better performing state.
Thank you.
First off, just want to thank you guys. This has been great so far. But my question is, we've got 2 data centers that are primary, 80 millisecond latency. We've got about 2/3 of our users. 2/3 of our users in the North American and about 1/3 in the right. Right now we have a split DAG, so we have 2010, 4 nodes. We're looking at 2013, and we're trying to determine the best approach. 1 DAG that we're doing the exact same way with 1 namespace. We're not confident that the geo is going to really work for us, or 2 DAGs, which doubles the hardware for us. So any thoughts on what we can do to gather more information on an approach?
What did you say the latency was between?
About 80. It averages between like 77 and 88.
Okay. Well, I'd go with the stretch DAG. Try it out and make sure it's working for you. But we found that it tends to work for that sort of latency, up to 200 milliseconds. So go with that in an unbound namespace if you can. Right. That's what we prefer. That's what we build towards, and it's going to work best most of the time.
Question for you: where do you put your file share witness?
So that's a great question. Right now we have it in our primary data center.
What do you consider your primary data center?
The one with 2/3 people.
2/3 people.
So we're
Some
active.
people, it's
yeah,
the
we're
one
active
guy
active.
who's most important in the company is on that side.
Yeah, that's where most of our C
side.
staff is. So we have actually seen when there's a little network blip, our UK data center kind of blips, goes offline, comes right back up. So we are looking at putting the file share in a third, either another one that we own or possibly Azure. But we're trying to figure out is exactly where that boundary is and how to best make that approach. So 1 DAG really sounds like the better way to go stretched.
For me, it really matters for your secondary data center when something happens that shunts that data center off from the rest of the network. Right? When it happens, fiber cuts happen all the time. Squirrels love fiber. It must be delicious for them. So when that happens, are you okay with that third of your user population being without email services?
No.
Then you need 2 DAGs.
Okay.
I mean, realistically speaking, if you need users who are better connected to a set of servers to maintain connection and availability of service to that set of servers when shunted off from the rest of the network, you need 2 DAGs.
Okay.
When it's acceptable that that set of users don't have service when that happens, then you can do 1 DAG.
Do your users actually reside in the data center property?
Of that 1/3, about 70% of them do. The rest are then spread out among Tokyo and kind of the rest of that area.
'Cause that's often something that's missed is that, it's our headquarter data center, but that's actually sitting in an IT, business park 50 miles away. And even if that thing's offline, the users in HQ can still get to the other data center. So really stop and think about, if a data center is offline, does that impact my users at all as far as connectivity to the remaining ones?
Okay.
As another consideration.
So in that case, then, using the calculator, the best approach would be to set basically 2 sets of DAGs. 1 calculator for domestic, 1 kind of calculator set up for international. Thanks.
I've taught them well.
Have a
Yes, Obi-Wan.
There you go. Right, okay. Question from the gentleman in the lovely yellow.
It's the big yellow guy again. So we currently have, like I said, an Exchange 2010 deployment, which was also designed by a Microsoft architect, which is important because of what I'm going to tell you. No, the
Boris, you want to come forward?
Yeah,
and
Boris,
represent
we got a
MCS?
seat right up here for you.
No, the thing is, we've had quite a few issues, and it's because of server hardware. But so we have a 12-member DAG, all with multi-role service, like it should be. But the problem is that they have each two gateways because of the fact that we need to do source IP filtering for SMTP. So it means that we have one load balancing network and one shared network. So it means that there, for every server, there are two gateways with a weak host, strong host principle. But we've already had a few issues with NICs that appear to go down but don't really go down. And then the Windows machine takes another route and it tries to contact domain controllers using the load balancing network, via which, of course, it can't contact any domain controllers, and then stuff goes wrong. We did a whole bunch of workarounds. It's still not solved after, I think, 4 Microsoft support cases.
You just haven't gotten to the man behind you.
Right. Okay.
Raise your hand, Tim McMichael.
Okay.
Deflection. That's how it works.
But but the thing is, I just want to get rid of that situation, and I don't know whether there's a way to improve upon that. In
Single NIC?
16. Yeah.
What's that about simplicity?
So repeat the requirement again. So I heard something about source IP filtering, but expand on that.
But I don't know exactly why they chose 2 default gateways. Perhaps my colleague here knows because he designed with it.
He doesn't know, or he's not owning up.
Yeah, so when the connections
exactly.
are coming through your load balancer, they're not being natted, so that you get the source IP of the incoming connection at the
that's
server.
correct.
And you're talking about doing source IP filtering for inbound SMTP?
SMTP and yeah.
So one potential option there is to route your inbound SMTP through Edge.
Yeah.
And completely eliminate all that complexity with the additional NIC and actually NAT those connections from your load balancer into CAS. That would probably be the easiest way to go.
But then the edge would be in the DMZ, I suppose, no?
It could be. It doesn't have to be, right? Those edge servers could be. You could go down the complex network config path that you have on your CAS servers with those edge servers.
Mm-hmm.
That's another possibility, but you could also put them in the DMZ because that's really what they're designed for.
But the problem is that LAN servers are not supposed to go to the DMZ in our environment. So everything LAN has to stick to LAN. So if a LAN server needs to have SMTP access, it needs to stay in the LAN. It can't go via the DMZ back into the LAN.
What do you think, Jeff? I think Greg needs to do a site visit and have a discussion with the security.
Greg has some interesting opinions to share on these types of deployments.
Well, my first opinion is way to go throwing your colleague under the bus there. Second. And if you are ever on the phone, just so anyone ever knows this, if you're ever on the phone talking to somebody called Tim McMichael about your DAG problem, you are in the shit, let me tell you. Because if you got as far as him, you're in trouble. I mean, I was only semi-listening at one point because I was trying to figure out where to go.
Were you thinking about grass?
Yeah, I was actually. I was dreaming of home. But, I mean... Yeah, I don't know. And so servers, how can you ever get mail out if they're never allowed to talk to anything outside the local network? I mean, what's the... Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it's a complex situation. No. It was a Microsoft architect who designed it, and the networking team were the ones giving input. But I don't know exactly why they chose the design decision. But I know that it's a pain to support it, and every time that I call Microsoft support, it's an issue. So yeah.
So change it. So change it. Right? I mean, I taught kind of security in CAS publishing, and I talked to people who have more layers than a Black Forest ghetto going through their network. And you ask them, well, what does it really do for you? And they're like, well, it just makes it really friggin' hard to fix anything. And then, And all it does...
Hold on.
Yeah, go on.
What is a Black Forest ghetto? Is that what you said?
Don't you know what that is?
No, but we don't.
Lynn,
like
do you know what that is?
What's the
Okay,
American
even
name
Lynn doesn't
for
know
it?
who that is.
What's the American name for a
split-
Black Forest, like, cake thing with, like, layers of sponge?
A Black Forest cake?
Or a
No.
trifle?
It's not a trifling issue.
You mean a tree cake?
Anyway, change it. It's obviously crap. You should fix that. Who's next? All right, question at the front.
What is the future of claims-based authentication for Prem deployments?
Greg. That's a great question. All right, so the future is, you've seen the modern, hopefully you went to Jono's session around modern authentication in Office 365, bringing the claims auth to the service. So the plan is in Exchange 2016 to bring claims auth to on-prem. The requirements are going to be Exchange 2016, obviously, Windows Server 10 ADFS, and the Outlet 2016 client. And in fact, it will work with all the Office web app clients as well. And so there's a little bit of time before we get the whole suite. Right now, you can do claims-based auth login to OA using 2013 SP1 and beyond. And you can actually do claims-based auth for OA access for Exchange 2010 in a supported way, not using the hacks you'll find on the internet that no longer work, but by using the Windows Server 2012 web application proxy. If you put that in front of Exchange 2010 and 2013, they will give you ADFS or claims-based auth access to OA today. But the future with 2016 is after we release our stuff, you need to wait for Windows Server 10 ADFS for that to be a fully supported solution. How's that for an answer? All right? Great. Okay, next question. There's no way I can get the mic back there, but we can have a... mic at the front, and if some Jedi...
And over here, too. Okay, did I understand it before correctly that the additional performance for MAPI over HTTP has been lowered?
No. In a word. There's an increase in CPU requirements for MAPI over HTTP that really stem from the fact that because those connections are so short-lived, that the additional volume of connection handling results in additional CPU requirements. So we actually raised the CPU requirements for 2013 across the board when MAPI over HTTP came out in SP1 to cover for that.
With about 35%, but it's still a little bit high, to say it like this. For many small customers, we have seen that they have authentication problems coming up with please put in your email address and password again and again and again. And we have customers where we have had to switch it off again because we couldn't manage it.
And you've traced that back to a performance issue?
It was MAPI over HTTP. At that moment, when we shut it off again, it worked like a charm.
Okay, so you can run into connection issues that result in authentication prompts that have nothing to do with performance, just to call that out, right? And turning it off would certainly resolve those problems as well. It is also possible that it could be performance related on the back end. So .NET Framework 4.5.2 is absolutely key in order to be able to reduce CPU to the point that they fall into the guidance that we have published. If you do not have 4.5.2 installed, you will see higher CPU requirements on those machines. So that's an absolute given. So make sure that you're up to date there. If not, there's a multitude of ways that you can get into the situation that you just got into, and we'd have to go start troubleshooting, make sure that it's actually a perf problem.
Were these environments pure 2013, or were you coexisting still?
It was a green grass implementation where we had a customer who went out. It was a energy company, and we had a green grass, really complete new installation, CU5 at that time. And when they got the big bang, when the customers actually started working in the new environment, we had really problems with that MAPI over HTTP.
Because just to splinter off of what Jeff was saying, there's been a number of fixes over the last few months that were entirely unrelated to performance that did result in pop-ups like that. So in coexistence environments, this was a big one where if you were accessing your mailbox over map, said, hello. So if you had more than one version, you were accessing Map Your HTTP for your primary mailbox, but you were falling back to either RPC or Outlook Anywhere for another resource, whether it was a shared mailbox or a public folder or something on the other versions of Exchange. We had some problems in Outlook that were causing it to use the wrong authentication type. That could happen. What is going on here? Yeah, it must be. Then what was the other one I was going to say? Oh, we had, depending on, if a customer was doing single role deployments of 13, you could run into Kerberos token size limitations with IIS. When you turn on Map Your HTTP, newer releases, I think it was CU8, we fixed some registry keys to help reduce that likelihood. If you were in a multi-role environment, the keys were already there. But like you said, it could just be endless amount of issues or pop-ups.
Staying up to date on CUs helps here, both for what Brian's talking about as well as perf. We are constantly finding and fixing perf issues in this space.
A problem with that is even if you're up to date, even if you're up to date with 2013, you only have the possibility to switch it on or off. And when I switch it on there and we run again into those issues, I have a big problem.
Well, here's the benefit of 2016, because now you have per user control for it.
Yeah.
You can also pre-stage a registry key if you want
go?
to introduce it slowly. So there's a registry key for Outlook. You can basically tell it not to tell Exchange. Because the way this thing works is Outlook, when it sends the auto-discover request up to Exchange, it says, I support Map Your HTTP. And if Map Your HTTP is turned on the org, Exchange will then say, okay, I'll give you back those settings. If you're a little nervous about turning it back on again, which I'd understand, you could, for at least machines you have control of with a GPO, anything in the domain, hopefully, you can push out a reg key to everybody. You can turn it on for Exchange, and then you can slowly start backing that GPO off of users. And the next time an auto-discover request goes out and comes back, we'll update the profile. They might, depending on the version of Outlook, they may or may not have to restart to get flip the protocol type. And then you can gradually introduce it by pulling that reg key off users.
And coming in a CU near you, we're actually backporting all of the per user MAPI HTTP settings to Exchange 2013 as well.
Question about I'm a small shop. 250 mailboxes, have a virtual environment on a SAN. And, I've heard a lot about the big DAGs and thousands of mailboxes and stuff like that. So it's nice to hear that stuff, but for the small end user company, we have 2010. Seems to be working fine. We got snapshots running, blah, blah, blah. So we can easily recover. Is that, and we're going to upgrade to I'm going to upgrade to 2013 right away. Or should I wait till 2016? And do I need to have a dual system to have that checking happening? Or is it even worth it even running that for the error checking?
Oh, everybody's waiting for me. Shit, I guess I should have listened. We're talking about VSS snapshots?
Yeah.
Integrity checks?
Yes.
You have multiple databases? Multiple database copies?
Nope, just one.
Just one.
It works great. Works great.
All right, so we have a great solution. It's Office 365.
I'm in Canada. No, I can't. I'm a union. Part of a union. Can't do it.
Beyond that, if you're going to continue without having multiple database copies, yes, you need to continue doing the integrity check to validate your snapshots. That won't change with 2016. We only removed the requirement to do the integrity check if you had multiple database copies.
Okay. We're going to have to go into rapid fire question mode now. We've only got 10 minutes to go, so it better be quick. We're going to go fast.
I'll keep the grass out then, okay?
You do that.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm not quite that small. I'm around 750 mailboxes. Does it make sense to go physical hardware when we upgrade, or does it make sense to keep it virtual? We're virtual right now.
So I can, if that's okay, I can say exactly what I said on a panel last year in Vegas at the Penton IT Connections conference. It was a great panel question all the way down the line, and we had a bunch of really smart people on the panel, up to and including a gentleman to your left.
How about getting to the answer there, Chuck?
Yeah. What part of rapid fire are you having trouble?
You're doing good.
It is a one-word
I
answer.
hear a little mouse squeaking over a couple of seats to my right. Anyway, virtualization. I'm all
yes
out.
or no, Wes?
I'm all out because the smaller customers who could take the financial benefit generally don't have the operational complexity or operational maturity to handle that complexity. The bigger customers that have the operational maturity to be able to get to be able to run that well, they're just throwing money away. So I'm totally out for any customers running Exchange in a virtualized environment, except for some very specific use cases. And the very specific use cases are thinking about, hey, I've got one hybrid server left on premises. Fantastic. That's great. Also a great situation for Jeff's announcement this week. So anyway, that's my answer for that. And yeah.
Did anybody else notice the irony yesterday when in the perf troubleshooting session I asked who was using virtualized Exchange and everybody raised their hands? Nobody? Just me? Okay.
I was in somebody else's session next to you, so I must have missed that one.
Clearly. All right. Just there. Gentleman, just there.
I have a question about address rewriting on the edge transport servers. Is it possible to do address rewriting for non-Exchange SMTP servers using the edge transport role?
Wave your hand.
In the middle. Just a few
Oh,
rows back
sorry.
here. You blind people.
Yeah, I'm blind.
Just there.
Behind you, sorry. Repeat that one more. So you want to do address rewriting of non-Exchange recipients using edge transport?
Yes, correct.
Totally a Brian question.
I'm going to make up for Wes's time. I don't know.
Okay, that was a rapid fire answer. Brilliant. Okay. Don't be leaving the room yet. We're giving away money soon. Don't be leaving. Real cash money. All right, question over there, gentlemen.
I did attend your session, so I was there. Question on the preferred architecture. I've noticed that it's always been either, go either bound or unbound. In our situation, we're mostly unbound, but we still wanted to reduce the majority of the traffic that was going across the WAN on the MAPI network. We actually do have separate networks. In our case, we did Outlook Anywhere namespaces that were essentially bound to those data centers. So when the client comes up, does auto-discover, they'll preferentially connect to the same data center where their primary copy is. Just wondering why this isn't actually a more general recommendation. It seems to work really well for us.
Brian seems like he wants to talk first.
I don't know. This just happened. It just happened.
You gotta actually hold it by your mouth.
Yeah. It just, something works.
Wow.
So you're in a bound deployment model.
Well,
No, there's no mostly here. You're either bound or unbound.
Mailboxes are spread
Did you
out
see
everywhere.
50 Shades of Grey?
Mailboxes
I
are
did,
everywhere,
and I
always
cried.
everywhere.
But Wes is a good hugger, so I got through it. So, I mean, the whole unbound thing comes back to, we want things to be simple. So in your deployment, if it's set up as a bound deployment, there is a high probability that if you have something go wrong, you are going to get a phone call in the middle of the night to switch some DNS records over, unless you're using some crazy expensive, overcomplicated, breaks a lot load balancer in the cloud solution. So we want to avoid that kind of stuff and go with the unbound model and just let things proxy, let things move as they want to, and let the will of the IT gods play things out.
And get rid of your MAPI replication network craziness. One network.
Between the data centers is point to point, and it has its own network. That's why. So the clients are coming across MPLS, and that's why we have the two networks. So there was a legitimate reason. Our second data center, we did only go one NIC.
Yeah. I mean, it's just simplicity, really, unbound.
Yeah, we just didn't want half the traffic going over that MAPI network for the same reason.
So then my question starts to turn into, do you feel comfortable with all of your users hitting, one of them? Because if you're concerned about replication traffic, what's going to happen when you go through an activation process?
Not concerned about the replication traffic because that is that other point-to-point network, and it has significant bandwidth.
So for others that are in the room that don't have the luxury of that kind of model, though, think about it. If you're already wondering about, do I have enough traffic and bandwidth to replicate and get the content index over across, you probably have other things to be worrying about too, because when you light up the servers for user access, it might get worse.
I understand Tim McMichael wants to say something. He wants to bless us with wisdom. All right, he's going to save it. Okay. Running out of time. 4 minutes left.
Hey guys, thanks for doing a Q&A. It's really awesome. Hey, I have just finished a hybrid migration of most of my mailboxes, and some of the leftovers are transport rules, and I have a mishmash of transport rules that route things to certain people, both on-prem and off-prem. The OCD tingling in me is to say, please consolidate those in one place. The redundant-minded person is telling me, don't do that. Is there any value to having them in one place or the other? What's the recommended practice there?
So I always say when it comes to transport and thinking about architecture for transport, I'm a beer guy, and I love hops in my beer, but not in my mail routing environments unless I get something out of them. So one of the things to think about is, are your transport rules that are remaining on premises supporting on-premises functionality where the message is going to take a shorter path from recipient to from sender to recipient and vice versa in the cloud? If so, cool. Leave them there. If not, then do whatever makes you feel good, because they're probably going to not make any difference anyway.
Yes, I have a public folder question.
Oh, the clock just hit red. See that?
They're leaving. Stop leaving. It's only public folders.
So we're about a third way through hybrid deployment to online. And one of the things to notice was there's a script, and it was written in 2012 for like exporting and importing into the cloud to public folders. And what we discovered was that if you made change to the on-premise public folder, like remove an address or add an address to a public folder, that unless it's a new public folder, the script doesn't pick it up. It just sees it and then passes it and doesn't make updates to it. So we had to, it took a couple of days with a call in and got it resolved that way. But is there any way to tweak that script so don't have to manually do that process?
So don't take this the wrong way, but are you reading the TechNet article that the first link is download the scripts? Because we actually have updated those scripts a number of times. The old scripts, I think, are still included in the build if you just go to the scripts directory. But there is been a significant number of changes to the export-import scripts that are now available on TechNet. And I don't exactly know when, but we're also going to be combining those scripts into essentially one with a bunch of other logical improvements. I don't think that has been released publicly yet, so it's not out here, unless somebody in the public folder teams nearby can correct me. But yeah, those scripts have been updated quite a bit.
Okay, yeah, the ones I found, the newest ones we found were dated 2012.
There should be something newer. Shoot me an email, brian.day@microsoft.com, and we'll figure out what's going on. Because maybe there's a page out there that just simply the links didn't get updated.
And you should also subscribe him to all kinds of mailing lists.
Damn it, I was just going to say that.
Oh, I get enough email without getting more. All right, thanks.
All right, and I think, all right, this has to be super duper quick.
You got 60 seconds.
Yes or no answer.
Just to follow up on the claims-based authentication, is there any plans to support third-party IDPs besides Windows Server 10 ADFS?
Yes. So I think we're just about out of time. So one last T-shirt to give. So who is sitting next to somebody who's been in the same shirt all week long? You get the shirt then. So the guy next to him, obviously, right? So thanks, everybody. So thanks to Abram and to Lynn and Ross and Jeff and Brian and Wes. We appreciate all your questions and playing along.
Thank you, Greg.